Welcome to this final session of the third Adhyaya of Srimad Bhagavad Gita of the Karma Yoga. So this is the fifth session for Karma Yoga. We start with the prayer to the Lord, because without the grace of the Lord, no meaningful progress is possible. It is also the grace of the Guruji or Guruma, because of whom we have been able to understand these meanings of the shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And I am still a learner on this path, and that's why whatever I am going to share with you is whatever I have learned and understood so far. We start with the prarthana. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishamahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, what is Karma Yoga? We discussed before that Karma Yoga is skill in action and its results or the fruits of the action. But this skill is not just the outwardly skill like the meticulousness or the way we perform an action or a work. This skill is something which is within the attitude behind the skill, and we don't have to change our karma. We have to keep doing our same karma that we are doing, but we have to do it with a different attitude. So this is Karma Yoga, and this attitude is towards karma, one, and towards the karma phala, the fruits or the results of the action that we get. So we have already seen this in the previous shlokas, what kind of attitude we need, but we'll refresh it again. The benefits of Karma Yoga: one is the nirapekshata, that is the absence of expectation, because most of the times expectations is the root cause of our miseries. All the pains, the dukkha that we get in our life is because that we expect others to give us either happiness or not give us pain, or to change. But certainly that's not, these expectations are the ones that cause a lot of miseries and pain in the world. So it reduces our own desires, kamna, vasana, because with the right understanding that we get, and this also gives rise to a vairagya or a dispassion. We let go of a lot of our firm convictions, beliefs, and a lot of materialistic pleasures also we let go on this, with this understanding. And we realize that this world cannot give me what I truly want, and what I truly want is happiness, which is everlasting happiness, which this world cannot give, because everything is evanescent, it's changing, it's impermanent, and this changing world, just impermanent world, cannot give me permanent happiness. It also allows me to see the object, a person, or the situation from a different perspective, and this gives me a kind of a samagra darshan, a 360-degree view of the situation, which helps me definitely, and over a period of time on the Karma Yoga helps to relieve all these kama, krodha, all the raga, dvesha, and all the shadaripu, and it clears the antakarana of all the durguna, all the bad vices, virtues, sanskaras are cleaned, purified. The antakarana becomes shuddha, and this shuddha antakarana, or a clean mind or a purified mind, is the seat where the knowledge of the self, the Atma Swarupa Jnana, can be established, and that is when the Karma Yoga ends, because then that person becomes liberated from karma. He of course is not liberated from karma, it does not mean that he stops doing karma, but he is liberated from the bondage of karma. So the third Adhyaya, just to give you the brief, the first session we talk about the first 7 shlokas, the 2 types of approaches that Lord Krishna has shown, the Gnana Yoga and the Karma Yoga, 2 Nishtha that he has explained. For the people who are oriented towards karma, Karma Yoga is the one. For most of the people like us, we are all oriented towards action and karma. So Karma Yoga is something that is the most basic and the most important message of the Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. And for people who are oriented towards knowledge, who have already purified their mind, antakarana, and they have already obtained whatever they wanted to from action, for them the Gnan Nishtha is the one. Lord also talks about the Indriya Sanyam, which is very, very important, and Anasakti, absence of attachment towards the karma, karma phala, and the people around us. And then in the next session, the second session with the 8th to 16th shloka, the Lord talked about the 4 attitudes of Karma Yoga. One is the Kartavya Buddhi, Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam, the 8th shlok. The 9th shlok, from 9th to 12th shlok, there was the Yagna Buddhi, Yagnarthat Karmano Niyatra, Yagna Shishta. And the third was the Prasada Buddhi, Yagna Shishta Sina Santo. That is the Prasada Buddhi, that whatever we get from the offer, we should accept it as an offering from the Yagna, and that is a fruit of the action which we should consider it and accept it and share it. And finally, the Srushti Chakra showed how Annad Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanyatan Sambhavaha. So how the Srushti Chakra is going on, how Yagna is going everywhere, Brahma is in the Yagna, and this is the Dharma Buddhi. According to our duty, according to our Kartavya, according to our Dharma, we should do our action in the best possible way. The third session was mainly about the differences of Agnani and Gnani, their Drashti Bheda. The Gnani, who is a Gnani? The person who is, who is happy, who is completely satisfied, fulfilled, and he always remains in his own self, is a Gnani person. So one has to continue doing the karma till one reaches this stage. And the sthiti of the Gnani is that it does not have any attachment. And how Dharma is decided, there are 4. One is Shastra, again the Shrestha Vyakti, how he does the Acharana. So the person who is respected in the society, how he behaves, because Yatyada Charati Shrestha Tattat Devitaro Janaha. So Lord says that Shrestha Vyakti has a lot of responsibility in the society, because the way he behaves, people are going to follow him. And Lord also talks about his own example, Name Parthasti Kartavyam Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana, that he has nothing to achieve from this world or from the karma, but still he is into karma and he is doing his karma. And then Apuryamana Gnani Paripurna Sthiti has been explained. In the 27th shloka, Lord talks about the person who is ignorant, who is Agnani, how Ahankara Vimudhatma Kartahamiti Manyate. Because of the Ahankara, he believes that I am the doer. So this is the main root cause of all the bondage, because we always believe that I am doing it, मैंने किया है ये, मैं ये करता हूँ, वो करता हूँ, मैं इतना करता हूँ, मेरे को फिर भी कोई मुझे appreciate नहीं करते, ये सब हमारे, it all goes on in our mind. So this is the root cause of the bondage. And because when we do it, we also feel that whatever we are enjoying, the fruits of the action, is also what I am enjoying. So aham bhokta, I am the enjoyer. And this causes the bondage. So we have to understand that this ahankara, I, or my identification with my own form, name, is all limited. And the Shuddha Aham is the pure I, is my own self, my omnipresent, unlimited consciousness. That is the true sense. So once we understand this comes up, then that ego can be surrendered. But this is on the path of knowledge. On the path of bhakti, people surrender their ego to the Lord. They always believe that God is doing everything, we are only nimitta matra, and everything, all actions, all fruits, all results of the action, everything is surrendered to the Lord in the devotional path. So that is the way we have to take care of the ego. And then the next shloka, Lord talks about how Tattva Vittu is who has understood the Tattva, who has understood this, how he understands, what is his thinking, that Guna Guneshu Vartanta Iti Matvana Sajjate, that Guna always plays in the Guna. So basically it's all the Guna into Guna Vartante, and that's how he does not get attached, because he believes that all this is, it's not that I am doing it, it's all the Anatma into Anatma. So this Agnani has the Aviveka, whereas Tattvavitta Gnani has the Viveka, he has the Gnana. Agnani works with the Ahankara, whereas Tattvavittu works with the Sakshi Bhav. He can observe everything, he believes, he sees that Guna Guneshu Vartanta. And Agnani believes that I am the doer. He does not, whereas Tattvavitta Gnani does not get attached to the either doing or enjoying the roots, and he believes that karma is the the interplay between the guna and the guna. So guna means indriya and the vishaya. Indriya is also arises from the guna. Vishaya also, objects are also from the guna. So all this is the karma. And finally, in the 30th shloka, Lord Krishna says what Arjun needs to do, and through Arjun, of course, is giving a message to all of us that Mai Sarvani Karmani, it talks about the path of Karma Yoga. Surrender all your actions to me. Adhyatma Chetasa, do your journey with the spiritual mind, with the surrender bhavana, with the God consciousness, with understanding, with remembering always the Almighty. Nirashi Bhutva, let go of the results of the action. Asha, expectation, we should let go. Nirmamo Bhutva, let go of all the attachments, the mamata, mamatva. And Yudhyasva Vigatajvara. Vigatajvara is, don't do it with frustration or anger. Do your karma with a lot of joy, enjoyment. Enjoy whatever you are doing. Right? So with this, we also talked about Raga, Dvesha, how they determine our nature, behavior, and through these Raga, Dvesha, we operate, and we feel it's very natural because we are not aware how these sense organs interact with the objects, which gives rise to pleasure, like Raga. For example, if we get some heat, some burner or a heat, in a cold winter, it is a Raga. It gives us pleasure and we want to get it again and again. Whereas if the same heat is given to us in summer, then obviously we'll have Dvesha because it gives us painful, and that's why we want to go away from this action. That is the repulsion, or it's not the attraction. So all this praises, good praises, somebody will tell us, we will like to enjoy it, we get Raga or the pleasure, and then we want it again and again from that person. If somebody criticizes us, it is Dvesha, then that we don't like that person. Similarly, good food, not so good food, not tasty food, like food which we don't like. So all this creates a lot of Raga, Dvesha, and this operates in us. And Lord says, don't get swayed by these Raga, Dvesha. Tayona Vashamar Gachet. Don't get into this grip. The grip is very strong, Raga, Dvesha. So this is a very important sentence to remember. And this is our area of free will. This is not the destiny what determines this. We have to work towards it. We have to be aware. We have to try our best. We have to have Purushartha, and we have to try our best not to get swayed by this Raga, Dvesha, or what, not to get into the grip, because they are very powerful. And we must always keep our goals in our mind, use our intellect, think, use our discriminative intellect, Vivek Shakti, Buddhi Shakti, and whenever desire arises, we must use this. And then we should see the other side, the 360-degree view. There are two sides of the same coin, and we must have this overall attitude of, and we should see things from not just the short-term perspective, but even from the long-term perspective, how it is not good for us. So with this, we can change our habits, our behaviors, and our very, very subtle kind of thoughts, our patterns, our belief systems, our vrittis. All these we can observe, and gradually we can change. So for this, the daily introspection is a very, very effective tool which will help us to understand this. And finally, Lord says, Shreyan Sadharma Viduna, our own duty, our own dharma is the best for us. Whatever it may be, it is much better than following anybody else's dharma. And even death is better than not following our own dharma. So it is dangerous to follow somebody else's dharma. So here he says, Swadharma Palan is the best. And then the last part, now we are coming to the last part of the Karma Yoga, starts with Arjuna's question. And Arjuna says that, everybody wants to follow their Swadharma, but there is something sitting inside us which forcefully makes us follow something else what we don't want to. And what is this that forces us to do sinful activities, Papa Karana? A lot of religion says that there is a devil inside us which pushes us into this kind of a Papa. So this is a beautiful question of Arjuna that, we know this very clearly. Even Duryodhana in Mahabharata has said that, he says that I know that this is not dharma, but still I am pushed into it. I know that this is not adharma, but still I am not able to go into this. So this kind of situation we all face in life, that even we don't want to do it, we know that this is not good for us, but we are forced to do it somehow into these kind of activity or actions. So he says Varshne is Lord Krishna's name. He is born in the Vrushni dynasty. Athakena Prayuktam. What is that factor which impels a person? Prayukta. And Anichannapi. Anichannapi is against the wishes. Against my wish I'm forced to get into this action. And baladeva niyojita means by force it draws me or pushes me into performing these kind of sinful activities, papa, right? So this is the question of Arjuna, to which Lord and papam charati, which makes me commit this sin. And though I want to follow my swadharma, I am forced to follow or do or commit this sin. So what is this? What is this factor that forces me, and how can I control this? So that is the question, to which Bhagwan answers. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyena Miha Vairinam. So Lord Krishna answers and says that Kama Esha Krodha Esha, this desire and this anger, both these are the root cause of all the sins that we commit. So he talks about two important things. One is the Kama and the other is the Krodha. And then he says both these arise from Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. They arise from Rajogun, and because they are such that the desired anger also, they increase the Rajogun. So it's like a vicious circle. Because of Kama, Krodha, Rajogun, it arises and then it again increases the Rajogun. So it keeps on going on. And he says, uses two words, they are Mahashano, Mahapapma. Mahashano means they eat too much. Ashana means somebody who eats too much. You know, he's like a glutton. He just can't stop. He just keeps eating. So they are Mahashana. Mahashana means they are great. They keep on eating, meaning that they never get satisfied. You know, they keep eating one by one. Their ichha, their desire is never satisfied, never fulfilled. Mahapapma means that they are a cause for great sins that we commit. And he's talking about Kama and Krodha. And with the enam iha vairinam, know that both these are your enemies on this path. So this is what Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, that Kama and Krodha are the two main problems. So let's talk about them in a little bit detail. Guruma explains this quite very nicely, how Kama works, how Krodha works, how we can control them also. So Kama is not just sexual attraction. We generally mean Kama as sexual attraction, but all types of desires is considered, or all types of attractions, all types of raga are considered as Kama. And they arise out of the mind through the thoughts, sankalpa. You know, initially they start as a thought, as a sankalpa, and this mechanism in our scriptures is called Shobhanadhyas. That this gives rise to an illusion, this Kama or this thought, that this object or this person or this relationship is going to be good for me, it is going to give me happiness, so I must have it, I need it. So this kind of understanding is called Shobhanadhyas. And the root cause of analysis, if you do for all this, is because it arises because of my feeling of incompleteness within, and that's why this Kama arises, to make me complete. So that's the root cause of these problems. It's a apurnata, the feeling of incompleteness that we have inside. And we feel that we will become complete by acquiring this Kama, but it does not, never happens, because the moment it gets satisfied, there is another desire that springs up. So we always feel incomplete. And initially, though it comes as a thought, then it becomes more severe, it becomes a more intense desire that I need it badly, this thing or this object or this vyakti or this person, and then suddenly then it feels that I can't stay without it. So it's a kind of a, these are different stages of these Kama as it starts from the thought. And then without thinking, we get attached to it, we get so much dependent on it, and we also don't know, it deludes our mind completely, doesn't allow it to see clearly, and this gives rise to what is called as a moha, and it's because of these intense desires and kamana. Krodha or anger, it is something that hides our happiness, sukha ruttati, it engulfs or it hides our happiness, and it gives pain to both the person who does the anger or who becomes angry, and the person on whom we become angry. So it gives pain to both the persons. And when does it arise? Because the desires, when they don't get fulfilled, then the anger comes. So when the desires get fulfilled, more of moha and attachment happens. But when the desires don't get fulfilled, that is the time then we become angry on that person. and when it is expressed it burns, but when it is suppressed it even becomes more dangerous because it can come out as violence. And we can see today in the world that there is so much of violence. It's all because of kamana, desires, anger, and then it is suppressed and then it comes out as a violence. So all this is the root cause of a lot of miseries in the world around us, and it forces us to do something that we never would want to do. And whenever we are not angry, we'll probably feel that, is this the way I behaved? Was this the way I should have behaved? And we become blind, and we become completely out of our senses when we become angry. So the root cause of these issues, or kama, krodha, underlying problems, are the raga and the dvesha. Raga, dvesha are the attractions, repulsions. These are the very, very sukshma vruttiyas that we have inside us, in our mind, in our senses, and they work in the most mysterious ways. We don't ever realize how they work. They're very, very sukshma. Unless we are so aware, we won't even understand, let alone to change. It's very, very difficult, very, it's quite difficult. Unless we understand what is happening, how it is happening, we cannot change ourselves. So first step is to understand how our behavior, our automatic behaviors happen. So raga, dvesha are the ones which inspire us to do most of these sins. Raga leads to kama. It's a root behind the kama, because of the likes or the attraction that I have, I feel that if I get this, then I'll become happier. So it makes me feel complete. And dvesha leads to krodha, because of the dislikes it expresses as the anger. So this is how raga and dvesha work, and they lead to what is kama and krodha, which are the two root causes of all the problems, as Lord Krishna tells us. He also tells us that they are mahashano, mahapapma. Mahashano means they eat too much, they consume a lot, means that they are never satisfied. Whenever you put and the more we try to satisfy, the more they arise in our mind. And mahapapma means they are great sins. They destroy all the reasoning, the intellect. They they keep asking for more and more. And here papma means that we have to manage them with proper understanding. So this is what Lord Krishna means about mahashano, mahapapma. Mahashano means they are insatiable. They just keep coming up one after the other, and it's very difficult to understand or to control them. Our Guru Maharaj tells us that it's like the tissue paper dispenser. The moment you take out one tissue, the other tissue comes. So it's like that. The desires, they just keep on coming. They ask for more and more, and they let us do a lot of things which we don't want to do. So that's why controlling these desires is very important, and some kind of a discipline of the mind is important. Sanyama, it's very, very important, and this can only come with a lot of understanding, using our intellect, vivek shakti, vichar shakti. The first step is to understand what are the essential desires. There are different types of desires. Some are really essential for our livelihood, for our work, for our profession, for our welfare, for our progress, for our learning. There are many, many essential desires that we have. We have to first discriminate between what are essential and what are not essential. If these are essential for our living, our daily living, our progress, our learning, our passions, our hobbies, whatever are essential desires, yes, we have to accept them. We just can't say that all desires are useless. No, there are many, many good desires, that are essential desires, which we have to accept. The non-essential desires, we have to now think further on this. So for this, we have to see what are our goals in life, what matters to most in our life, and then we have to decide whether these desires, if I fulfill them, will I be able to meet these goals, or it will take me away from my goals. So that is something which is very important, whether this fulfilled desire will take me towards closer to my goals or not. And I must understand and realize that at some point, that even if all the desires are fulfilled, more and more will arise, and I shall never get peace of mind if I just keep running around with these desires, because these desires will spring me to action, more and more work, more and more action, more and more running around, and this will never give the peace of mind that I utterly love, cherish, and I want. So, and then I have to also think what are my needs, what are my really, do I need this desire, does it satisfy my needs, my basic needs, what are my basic needs. So this we have to have clarity, and we have to be aware in a thought stage before the desire becomes very strong. We have to become aware. So with this awareness, and finally surrender to the Lord, with the grace of Lord, we can be, we can control or we can modulate many desires if we put them to the feet of the Lord. So surrendering to the Lord is another way of getting rid of these non-essential or useless desires. Similarly, krodha, anger, that also needs to be modulated, controlled with the proper samajhdari, vivek, vichar, and we have to accept anger as our vice, our enemy, not as a virtue or our friend. We must realize that this krodha is something which is not going to help me. It's not my friend. A lot of times we try to rationalize with the krodha that this is good for me because people listen to me when I'm angry, but that is not the thing, because it does not benefit us. Any anger is not justifiable. So we must have a kind of a firm resolve to get rid of the anger, because it's an obstacle to our path, and we have to think of the loss, because there is no gain in anger, and in the long run it definitely harms us. Though in the short run we may feel that, when I get angry people listen to me or they do whatever I want them to do, but in the long run it does not help. So we must be aware in the early stages, because krodha, anger, always gives us a warning. When it is starting arising, then we come to know, somehow we do come to know that we are getting angry now. And we commonly tell other people also, now you don't speak any one word because I'm getting angry. So we know that we are getting angry, that is coming up, that anger is started already in us. So we have to be very careful at this stage. Try to do some self-talk, be careful. They say try to control yourself, don't get more angry. And then temporary solutions can be, we change our place, we change the situation, we wash our face, see ourselves in the mirror, because when we are angry our face is such that we also ourselves would not like to see our face. Sometimes we can go to our prayer place in our home where there is a Lord, just pray to the Lord, and that can help us to get rid of this anger. So we can also make a rule that if we get angry, we will donate something, or we'll do some japa, mala, or some kind of a niyama or a rule we can make, so that it can help us to overcome this anger. Of course, it is difficult to overcome anger. It is not easy, but because it has been with us since many years, with many ages, but it is not impossible to control anger. With awareness, with understanding, we can definitely control our reactions and our anger. So this is something that we need to be aware of. The next shloka says, Dhume na vriyate vanhihi yatha darsho malena cha yatholbe na vruto garbha tatha tene damavrutam. So here Lord shows us three examples how, and tells us that Atma Gnana, the self-knowledge, the ultimate goal or our mission of our life, is concealed, is hidden by the desires, the karma. And that's why we are not able to see this self-knowledge, because we are all engulfed by so many desires. And he gives three examples. The first example, he says, Yatha dhumena vanhi, as the smoke conceals the fire, because fire is a light, but the smoke, the dark smoke can conceal the fire. We may not be able to see the fire because of the smoke. Malena darsha avritya, so how the dirt conceals the mirror or the image in the mirror, right? How the dirt conceals or does not allow us to see our image clearly. And the third example he gives is just as the womb envelops a fetus and conceals the fetus, right? Similarly, these desires conceal the self-knowledge or the Atma-Jnana. So this is how the Atma-Jnana is concealed, by these desires. And in all these three examples, it is the darkness that hides the light. And it signifies that, Atma-Jnana is the light. It's the light of knowledge. And the desires are, they are the darkness, because they take us towards darkness. And but still the light cannot be held captive, and it can become free also. So we must realize that there are three types of desires. One is a sattvic desire. These are the, we can say that the good type of desires, the sattva guna, Pradhanya means they are predominantly Sattva Guna. They are essential, definitely, because that is, Satsanga, Swadhyaya, some scriptures, reading, Japa, Puja, prayers, anything that is related to the Lord Almighty, the God, the nature, is a Sattvic. And these desires, the first example that Lord Krishna gave in the previous shloka, that the smoke hides the fire, and this Sattvic desire, the smoke, a guru will blow the smoke over the fire and just take it away. So Sattvic desires can be easily tackled by the guru. So finally, we have to even let go of the Sattvic desires to go to the ultimate knowledge. So if it is worldly life, definitely we have to good to convert all other desires to Sattvic desires. But in the spiritual quest, finally, in the final stages, we have to even leave the Sattvic desires also, because we don't need to give so much of our time into this. And finally, we have to go into the Gnana Sadhana. The Rajasic desires are basically related to many activities, work to earn wealth, name, fame, punya, service, and all this. So this is what most of us are into in the world. It needs definitely more efforts to clean the dirt on the mirror, which was the second example that Lord gave about the Rajasic desires. So, and the third are the Tamasic desires, where I should be happy even if others are unhappy, and I fulfill all my desires. So this is all the Asuri Vritti, like the demons. We want to be happy and enjoy everything at any cost. But here we need a lot of patience to take care of these Tamasic desires, because just like Lord gave the third example, how the womb envelops the fetus, we have to wait for 9 months for this birth of the baby, so that the fetus is free from the womb and is not concealed. So similarly, these desires, we will have to wait longer time. We need to have a lot of patience, so that Tamasic desires can be converted to Rajasic desires, and finally to Sattvic desires. So spiritual journey is all about converting our tamas into rajas, or tamasic desires, tamasic food, tamasic people, company, and all this into rajasic, and finally to go more towards sattvic. From rajasic, if we are rajasic pradhanya or predominant rajasic prakriti or nature, then we should go more towards the sattvic. We should spend more time in reading good books, literature, scriptures, good thoughts. Spend time in any kind of prayer, puja, yagna, kind of anything that is related to the swadhyaya or satsanga. And finally, in the spiritual journey, we have to even leave these sattvic desires to obtain the self-knowledge. So this is the journey. Avrutam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairina Kama rupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. So here Lord says it is only because of these desires that the true knowledge remains hidden or concealed. And even for a thinker, even for a gnanina, gnanina here does not mean a person who is enlightened. Here it means a thinker or the seeker who is even thinking. Even for that person it is difficult, because the knowledge, the desires are so powerful, and these desires are like fire on a lena. Just like fire, if they keep happening and they keep prajwalit, or they keep burning, and they are dushpurena, they are never satisfied. It's very difficult to satisfy them, and they are your nitya vairi. Nitya vairina means they are permanent enemies, so because they take you away from your goals. And that's why these vasana, which happens without thinking, forces us into action. And Arjuna probably must have thought that if this is so important, then what is the home of these desires? Where do they stay? And what do I have to do? What is the solution to get rid of all this? Probably this question must have come to his mind, and he would probably be wanting to know the address of the home address of these desires, so that he can control them. And Lord says, Indriyani mano buddhihi asyadhishtana muchyate etair vimohayatyesha gnanamavrutya dehinam. He says these desires, they work through the sense organs, the mind and the intellect. So basically Lord says that the home of these desires is the Sukshma Sharir, is the subtle body that we have inside, the mind, the intellect and the sense organs. All these are part of the Sukshma Sharir, but they are not present in the Sthula Sharir, or the gross body that we have, or the Atma Swarupa, our self, the real self. They don't have any desires. They are akarta. So the desire, home of these desires is the Sukshma Sharir, Indriyani, Manah, Buddhi. All three, Indriya, Mana or Buddhi. These are the adhisthana of these desires. And he says these desires, they delude the mind, moha, vimohayati, and conceal the knowledge, jnana avrutta dehinam, of the jiva. So these desires, though they stay in the Sukshma Sharira, but they hide the Atma Swarupa, and they conceal the knowledge, and they delude the mind, vimoha. So this is how they work. So just we need to understand how this desire or this calm is in the Indriya. Indriyas are the sense organs. As you know, there are 5 Jnanendriyas through which we can imbibe the information from the outer world, and then we have the 5 Karmendriyas through which we do the action. So the 5 Jnanendriyas are the ones that are important here, because that is where the Kamana lives, and it is only by seeing the objects outside in the world, the Vishaya Darshan, we see something, because seeing is also using the Jnanendriya, the Chakshu Indriya, hearing something, the Shrotra Indriya, all this, and then something, we start, the desire arises. Just like, for example, in the television ad, we listen to or we hear something about some good thing, about some, very attractive kind of a object or a product which is shown, and then the desire comes into mind to have this. So basically this is through the Indriya. Mana, how does the desire come in the Mana? We may be sitting quietly, because that means the Indriya is not active, but then suddenly there are some thoughts which are coming to our mind, and suddenly from one of the thoughts there will be a desire. We may be thinking about some place, and then there is a desire, okay, I should also visit this place. So that is how the desires can come from the Mana, even when the Indriyas are not active or not being used, and then these desires bring us into action. And the third is the Buddhi. Buddhi also can have karma or desires, because we constantly have some thoughts which are coming constantly. There is one after the other, the thoughts keep on coming, and this one after the other thoughts give rise to desire, because something becomes instrumental in developing new desires. And for this we need to control or discipline our Indriya, Mana and Buddhi by awareness to control this desire. So this discipline of our Indriya, Mana, Buddhi is important. We must use our thinking, our discrimination, our vivek, our intellect, our buddhi to control this, and we have to scrutinize all desires, as I said previously, to whether they are necessary and they are non-essential. If they are necessary, yes, accept them. If they are not essential, leave them. We should not suppress them. Introspection should be a daily practice of our life, but that is how we will come to know what are the raga, dvesha that are happening, beyond which these desires are coming. And daily there will be a progress. We must have patience, and this we have to continue every day and always, nirantara, nitya and nirantara. Nitya means every day, nirantara means for lifetime. So this sadhana, this progress, this process must be continued. And what is the phala? What is the fruit, or what is the result of this? The mind will become quiet, still and peaceful. So that we will come to know that the desires are getting less and less in us. Over a period of time, our mind becomes more peaceful, more quiet, more still. We will be more peaceful with our own self. And this learning that we get, we should put it into practice in life, because that is most important. Unless we put that practice, whatever remains in the information or as a knowledge in our mind or in our brain, that is not going to help us. But if we assimilate that knowledge in our own self and then put it out into practice in life, then it is going to definitely help us. So that should be the goal for all spiritual seekers. And it all depends on me, how serious I am, how sincere I am towards my goals or towards my path, and how dedicated I am to do all this introspection, proper viveka, samajhdari, and then if I am working on this, this is the area of my purushartha, this is not the area of my destiny. So I must accept it as a challenge. I must work towards it. I must keep on this path and continue doing it with a lot of self-confidence, with courage, with a lot of enthusiasm, and with patience, because it's going to take a long time to change our basic nature, our habits. All these are so much ingrained in us that to change this kama, krodha, all these desires, all this, it's going to take time, and that is not going to be overnight. So we have to keep a lot of patience on this path. Okay, the next shloka is Tasmat Tvamindriyanyadyo Niyamya Bharatarshava Papmanam Prajahihyenam Gnana Vijnana Nashanam. So Lord addresses Arjuna as Bharatarshava. Bharatarshava is the, oh Arjuna, you are the best in the Bharata dynasty. Tasmatvam Adau Niyamya Indriyani. So that's why you have to first start with the control of your senses, sense organs. That is the first step in the spiritual journey. This is the first step that Lord Krishna tells us, that we start with the control of our sense organs. As the sense organs, they push us to commit the sins, Papmanam, and they also Gnana Vijnana Nashanam. They destroy our wisdom and our knowledge of the reality. So Gnana means the wisdom that is given in the scriptures about the self-knowledge or the Atma Gnana, whatever good thing we have learned from our Guru or the scriptures, that is the Gnana. Vijnana is the knowledge of the world, the realities or the world. You know, so we study a lot of different physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, all this knowledge that we have of the world. We have seen a lot of information that we have. So all this is called Vijnana. So all this can be destroyed by our, by this karma. And that's why we must control this. And so we must definitely leave them. He says, Prajahi Yenam. So we should leave these desires, the unessential or the non-essential, or the desires which, which keep coming to our mind. So Lord here tells us that Indriya Sanyam is the first step of the spiritual journey. And in this spiritual journey, it's a journey which is done inside, because it's not done outside in the world, because this is, quite deep, it is quite sukshma, it is a very subtle journey, because we're dealing with our mind, our indriya, our sense organs, our intellect, our soul. So all these requires a lot of subtle thinking, because this is something which we cannot see also, but it is definitely there. There are a lot of things which we cannot see, but they are reality. So we have to understand this, and we have to do this with this understanding. So we start with the Indriya Sanyam, and then we have to Dharma Palan, the righteous way to action, and we have to work without Raga Dvesha. Instead of Raga Dvesha, we have to convert this our karma towards what is Dharma and what is Adharma. So the righteous way of doing the action, which is done with some kind of an understanding, with the Vichar, Viveka, thinking, and controlling the Indriya, Mana and Buddhi. Finally, we have to surrender to the Lord, modulate all the energy, our entire energy towards the Lord. So the social distancing that is nowadays become the norm should be done between me and my Raga Dvesha, because I must observe them very carefully. This is part of our spiritual journey. What is Dharma, what is Adharma, what is the right way of doing the thing, what is not the right way. If I am not on the right path, then I must question myself and should change. Karma, Akarmya, what I should do, what I should not do, what is worth doing, what is not worth doing. This kind of a wisdom also I must have. And then finally Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is the truth, what is not the truth, what is Sat, what is Asat, what is Mithya. This Vivek, this distancing, this discrimination I must have. So here is where I need to work. This is the area of my influence, and I should try my best to understand this by the scriptures or with the help of a guru. So Indriya Sanyam, or control of sense organs, there are several ways. Pranayama is considered to be one of the ways, because prana is directly connected to our senses and the mind. So it is one of the ways of controlling the senses and the mind. But the other ways which are said is, one is the tapa. Tapa means to endure certain difficulties. Shaucha, that is the purity of life according to scriptures. Vidhi, Nishedh. Vidhi means do what the scriptures tell us to do, and Nishedha means don't do something that scriptures don't tell us to do, so we should leave those things. Swadhyaya, that is satsanga, reading scriptures, japa, puja, all this, and some kind of a santosha, satisfaction, which gives me peace of mind. So with these 5 attributes we must have is in life. Finally, of course, surrender to the God, Ishvara Pranidhana. Then we can get our mind or our senses, Indriya Sanyam. So this kind of daily activities we should try and get in our life. It will reduce our attachment to worldly objects. So tapa, some kind of enduring some difficulties in life, purity of life, Vidhi Nisheth to follow, Swadhyaya Satsanga, Santosha and Ishvara Pranidhana. Similarly, Mana, Niyaman, how we can modulate our mind, which is more difficult because it is the seat of all emotions and it's very strong. By efforts, we can definitely control its flow, and when it is flowing towards the Indriya, we can change the direction of the flow and make it flow towards the Antaratma or towards our Buddhi and towards our soul. So this is how we have to modulate our mind, and it requires constant practice. We have to develop a kind of relationship with the Lord, and the more we relate with the God, the more our worldly activities will reduce. So we should pray regularly so that God helps us to improve. With His grace, we can improve our journey. Buddhi Niyantran, or discipline of the intellect, because Buddhi is the area where we take a lot of decisions. It's a seat of knowledge, and it's a seat where a lot of decisions are taken after awareness of the thoughts. And if we take more and more decisions related to the Lord, if we follow them, definitely it will help us. Experience, our previous experience should be our best teacher. We should try and introspect, learn from all our experiences, learn from others' experiences also. And daily introspection again is very important here. And a firm resolve, firm decision to pursue on the path of knowledge. So this is the area of the buddhi or the intellect. And we should decide that today I shall not be swept over by my useless desires, which will not fulfill my goal, and I will use my time in the best possible way for my own upliftment. So with these kind of firm resolutions in the mind, we can use buddhi to discipline ourselves and intellect. So finally, faith in the God so that I can reach towards my goal. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhe paratastu saha. So here Lord tells us that Atmagnan hi agnan ko nashta karega. So that means that this kind of self-knowledge will only be destroyed by ignorance. So here he gives us the steps that Indriya sebi para is mana. Indriyani paranyahu. Indriya is superior to the senses or the objects. So senses, the first is says Indriyani parani ahuhu. So senses are above. Above means they are more superior, they are more stronger, they are more subtle than the body. Body is basically an object, stula. So there is a stula jagata, all the objects that we see, and the body also is seen. So that becomes the stula or the object. So these are all the objects, and these objects are sensed or understood or by the sense organs, the Indriya Shakti. Through these Indriya Shakti, all this information is fed into our mind, and then it goes to our intellect, buddhi, for making a decision. So the senses are definitely much more subtle because they are a Shakti, there's an energy. They are not the gross thing. The ear is not the Shakti, but the Shotrendriya or the Indriya is inside the ear, because it's a Shakti which captures the words and takes the meaning to the brain. So similarly, eyes, the Rupa Shakti is then brought from the image is taken to the brain. That is the Chakshur Indriya. So these Indriyas are much more stronger, they are more subtle, they are more sukshma than the objects. Indriyebhya param manaha means that mind is above. It is more superior, more subtle than the senses, because mind gets information from all the 5 sense organs. And that's why mind is definitely more powerful. Manah tu parabuddhihi. Intellect is above the mind. Intellect is much more subtle, much more sukshma and more superior than the mind, because mind is in the thoughts, whereas intellect has a creative potential. It can create new ideas, new thoughts, whereas mind can only work on the same thoughts. So that is how intellect is more superior to the mind. And tu ya buddhe parata saha. That means what is above or superior to the intellect is your consciousness. It's a knower of all. It is that Atma. You call it the soul, you call it by consciousness, you give it any word, but it is superior to your intellect. So this is how Lord tells us how we can control one after the other thing. He says, Evam buddhe param buddhva sanstab matmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kama rupam durasatam. So by self-knowledge we can perish our ignorance. Evam buddhe param buddhva means by knowing what is above the intellect, that is the Atma or the consciousness, and through this we control our mind and our intellect, and we conquer our enemies. O the Great One, which says to Arjuna, Ho Mahabaho, Kamarupam Durasadam, let go these enemies, these desires which give you pain and miseries, destroy and be victorious over your enemies. So let these desires be taken care. So for this we need to meditate on our completely fulfilled consciousness, the Atma or the consciousness, which is a Paripurna Swarup. On a spiritual journey for control, as the Lord mentions here, Atma is the topmost control, because that can control the Buddhi. Through Buddhi we can control our mind, through mind we can control our Indriya or the senses, and through this we can control our our Indriya going into all the different objects and our desires, the Kama, whether we want to get those objects or not. So this is how the control paradigm will look like. When we are doing meditation, then what we are doing is that we are too much attached and identified with all the Vishaya, the objects, including our body. Of course, the objects in the world are something that we are attached, but our body is our main source of our attachment, because we believe that we are our body, the stool or the gross body. So from this we have to take a step further and put our mind into Indriya. From there we have to take all our vrittis into the Mana, and from Mana then we have to go towards Buddhi, and with this then usko bhi leen karna hai Atma mein. So ultimately we have to reach to the soul or the consciousness and put all our thoughts, energies into the Atma or the consciousness, and then remain still and quiet and peaceful. So this is how we can control these things. So we come to the end of the third Adhyaya or the Karma Yoga Adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, and at the end of any Adhyaya there is this Adhyaya Pushpika. So we will just recite this. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Trutiyodhyayah. Basically it says Om is the name of the Lord, Tat Sat Iti Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu, because it is the summary or the sar of the Upanishad. It consists of Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is a self-knowledge, the ultimate knowledge. Yoga Shastra, Shri Krishna Arjuna, because Gita Ji is a dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, and Karma Yoga Nama, third Adhyaya, is Samapta. So that is what this Pushpika means. And finally, after every Adhyaya, we also recite this shloka, which is the 18th Adhyaya, 66th shloka, which is the end of the message of the Lord, the Updesha, which says Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha. So it says that Lord tells Arjuna that you leave all this dharma, come to my Sharana, or come and surrender to me. Aham Tvam Sarva Papa. I'll take care of all your sins, and I'll liberate you from all these, from these bondages. So that is what Lord tells us about surrender. So to summarize Karma Yoga, which was the third Adhyaya, where both these subjects of karma and jnana have been addressed. A lot has been said about karma, but there is something about jnana, because that's the ultimate goal, and that the Lord doesn't want us to forget that through karma, where does He want us to go is towards the jnana. So that is the ultimate objective, and doing karma is also for that objective, because we need to in the process purify our mind, antakarana shuddhi, and then we have to reach towards the jnana. So Karma Yoga is a skill or the attitude of doing karma, action or work. And what kind of attitude? One is Ishwararpana Bhava, as surrender to the Lord, so that our ego is not there. We become an egoless person, and then we surrender to the Lord, just as if Lord is making us a nimitta matra and allowing us to do this. We are doing it through Him, but it's a duty that He has given us, we do it. The second attitude is that we do it as to please the Lord, Ishwara Prasanna Bhava. So if you do something, which I do a good thing, then Lord will definitely be happy. So whatever I do, I should do it well so that the Lord becomes happy, and we don't want to displease the Lord, and that's why we should avoid all the the sins, and the papa karma gradually will come out of these negative emotions also. The third attitude is the Ishwar Agnya, as if it's a Lord's order. I am his servant, he is the master because he is the creator of this universe, and if he gives me an order, if he gives me an agnya of doing something, tells me that I need to do this, this is the role that I have to fulfill, and I must do it in the best possible way. And so this is the Ishwar Agnya, this buddhi, with this we should do. Fourth is the Nimitta Matra Bhava, as an instrument, so that God is keeping somebody as an instrument to do whatever he wants. His mission on this universe is being fulfilled by making somebody instrumental, and I should feel that I am fortunate that I am an instrument in this field, in this area, in this sphere, in this place. I need to do my best possible work in the best possible way. And finally, as our role in our life, as a duty in this grand scheme of things, in this big drama that is going on, whatever role I have been given, I should do it to the best possible, and I should do it as my duty, with joy, out of joy, and to please the Lord. And finally, prasada buddhi, whenever I accept anything, all the results, I must accept it gracefully and share it with others, just like I share the prasada, which is the offering which I get from the Lord. So with this, I thank you all very much.